If you believe in the power of love, subscribe to Bear Tales for more heart-touching stories. Don't forget to comment your thoughts, because every love story deserves to be felt and shared.
The day Tim proposed, I suddenly heard my best friend's thoughts. Laugh all you want, fool. He's in love with me. My back is so sore. Tim was wild last night. No, I can't think about it. So embarrassing. Being with Tim for 5 years, it looked like we were finally reaching our happy ending. Today is my birthday and also the day he proposed. The event was at a fancy venue, decorated so beautifully it could rival a wedding. Tim invited all our close friends and family. In that moment, he held a bouquet of bright red roses. His proposal speech was pretty cliché, but he said, "Anna, there's elegance in being common. And I know you feel my heart. Will you marry me?" Looking at the deep affection in his eyes, I smiled and was about to take the flowers from his hand. Suddenly I heard my best friend Shirley's voice. Laugh all you want, fool. He's in love with me. My back is so sore. Tim was wild last night. No, I can't think about it. So embarrassing. My hand froze and I looked up in shock, but Shirley seemed perfectly normal, full of gentle smiles. But as I looked down, the voice echoed again. Oh my God, why did she look at me all of a sudden? I thought I slipped up. It's not time yet. But Anna, one day I'll tell you all this to your face. My ears buzzed with disbelief. Tim didn't notice and asked, Anna, will you marry me? I glanced at him, then at Shirley, and couldn't help but test her. Shirley, do you think I should say yes? Shirley immediately hugged me, eyes welling up with tears. Anna, are you nervous? Don't worry, everyone sees how Tim's been with you all these years. You can relax. If he ever bullies you, I'll cut him up myself. I watched her face, pretending to shyly nod. Tim, I agree. The next moment Shirley's voice returned. What's there to be nervous about, fool? It's all a sham. But I could see clearly she hadn't opened her mouth. Was I somehow hearing her inner thoughts? Recalling her words, a chill ran through me. I accepted Tim's proposal and the room cheered. Tim hugged my waist and leaned in to kiss me, but I turned my face away instinctively, looking at Shirley. She was staring straight at us. I playfully hit Tim's chest, acting coy. Everyone's watching. Come over to my apartment tonight. Tim was stunned for a moment, then lifted me up and spun me around. He asked quietly, Are you sure? Leaning my head against his shoulder, I nodded, sneaking glances at Shirley. In a tone just loud enough for the three of us to hear, I said, Yeah. Tonight I'm all yours. Almost immediately, I heard Shirley's voice. What? Anna, didn't you say no to premarital sex? You witch. Tim is mine. But she kept smiling, looking at me with friendly eyes. Disgust welled up inside, and I pushed Tim away. I clenched my trembling hands, struggling to stay calm. I'm going to the bathroom. Tim offered to join me, but I refused. Leaving the room, a chill ran through me despite the warm April weather. In the bathroom, I splashed water on my face until my head cleared. The fact that I could hear thoughts wasn't as shocking or infuriating as the things Shirley was thinking. One's my longtime boyfriend, and the other's my best friend. We've been through college together and entered the adult world. Our bond is tight. Yet they were hooking up. Why deceive me together? Why not tell me? Then why propose? I was too shocked and angry to even cry. Looking back, maybe they weren't entirely subtle, like the hand in Shirley's Twitter pic at dinner, obscured with a mosaic, or that night I couldn't reach either of them during a college reunion I missed. It wasn't just one night, there were many nights they were both unreachable, and I stupidly thought they each had their own things. Little did I know, they were spending those nights together. I stayed in the bathroom a long time until Shirley came to find me. Anna, are you still in there? Are you okay? After several deep breaths, I opened the door, saying, "I'm fine. It just feels a little unreal." Shirley cheerfully linked her arm in mine. "Are you so happy you're gonna faint, Anna? You're truly the happiest." She sounded sincere, but I resisted the urge to push her away. How can anyone have such contrasting faces? Not knowing their real intentions, I decided to play along. "Shirley, how was your first time? Did it hurt?" Shirley smiled flirtatiously, and I noticed a sudden darkness in her eyes. What a naive little fool. Did you really think Tim was holding out just for you? Once again, I heard her. "Anna, mind if I ask, all these years, have you ever wondered if Tim might have someone else?" I looked at her with a pointed gaze, then sighed. Honestly, I never really believed it. But guys, you know, fooling around a bit isn't a big deal. If you really held it in, I'd be the one ending up unhappy. Besides, anyone else is just a side piece. I don't care about chickens like that. Tim's heart is with me, otherwise, he wouldn't propose, right, Shirley? Shirley eagerly nodded in agreement. Of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't let it slide. But internally, she was screaming, "You're the chicken. Your whole family's chickens. Once Tim drains your family's wealth, all you'll be good for is being a chicken." Hearing that, my face turned cold. "Ah, so it's not for love, but for money, then." Shirley continued silently cursing me. I slowly pulled my arm from hers and went to wash my hands, looking into the mirror. As I lowered my head, I gave a cold laugh. Should I call them naive or stupid? With such enormous greed, aren't they afraid it'll be their downfall? That night, Tim didn't get on the elevator to my apartment. The nursing home called, saying his mom hadn't been eating, drinking, or sleeping these past couple of days. They asked him to visit. I thought it was pretty convenient. I put up a hand to keep him from leaning in closer. With a hint of compassion, I told him, "Go ahead. Your mom's important." I knew he'd definitely go, at least in front of me. He's always been good to his mom. Pretending not to notice the lingering look in his eyes filled with a mix of regret and reluctance, I kept smiling. Tim sighed heavily and then turned away. I watched him leave, my face gradually cooling off. Even without the call from the nursing home, there's no way he was coming into my apartment tonight. And whether he was really going to see his mom or hanging out with Shirley, I didn't want to care anymore. I needed some space to sort out this mess. Like, when did the two of them start seeing each other? Honestly, Shirley and I never really clicked from the start. We were college roommates, but she kept to herself and wasn't close to anyone. It wasn't until both of us had boyfriends that we found something in common to talk about. Over the years, she occasionally posted stuff about relationships on Twitter, along with some photos. Whenever I asked about it, she'd just smile and say she'd share the good news in time. Looking back at her expressions then, there was always something off. Yet deep down, there's a tiny bit of hope for the feelings from when we were young. Reality is, Tim is not worthy. If Shirley could hook him easily, Sally's admiring glances would be too much too. He's no match for women who have been around the block. The latest scoop from Sally is Tim's caught up again. He's not only addressing Sally's so-called financial crisis but also helping out her family. If Sally were really just a newbie graduate, she'd be all about Tim. But learning from past mistakes. I approached Sally with total confidence. When my parents came back from their trip, they couldn't understand why I got Tim a secretary under their name. I knew it was time to spill the truth. Tim doesn't love me anymore, he's after our family status. I have to make him quit the company. I didn't mention the mind-reading part. Anyone would find it absurd. I thought my folks would struggle with it. But they got it real quick. "Anna, we're too old. We misjudged him." Dad's words made my nose tingle. "Dad, it's not your age. It's your trust in me. You trusted me and put blinders on about Tim." They didn't oppose in the beginning, just went along in the end. After a heartfelt talk with them and gaining their support, I felt at ease. Richard found out and teased me. What were you thinking? Tim's an outsider, no matter what. He spoke the truth, but I would never admit defeat. Tim's someone my dad personally groomed. I thought he. For who? Himself. Your dad did it for you. Since you've made your choice and he's already not a Tim fan, he's likely relieved. I rolled my eyes. All right, all right. You're the expert. Richard graciously accepted it. Thank you, thank you. Then he got serious. It's about time to wrap this up. Shirley's not dropping hints anymore. She's straight up saying she wants my baby. I almost spit out my tea. What innocence do you have? If you said your brother was innocent, I'd believe you. Richard grinned but didn't argue. Really, that woman's got tricks for days. She scares me. If she tricks me once, I'll be booted from the family tree. I couldn't help but laugh. He had a point. Time to get serious. Getting Richard to ditch Shirley isn't hard. I've got loads of photos, videos, and recordings of her with Tim. The latest was when she'd already agreed to go out with Richard. In the showdown, the man's face isn't visible in the pics. When Richard acted heartbroken, looking like a betrayed turtle, questioning Shirley. I was impressed, the acting deserves praise. Shirley denied it, but we had that recording from her bedroom. I had a professional agency verify it. It's definitely your voice. I love you so much, Shirley. I'd take on my whole family for you. Why did you do it? Who's that man? Shirley sobbed, biting her pale lips until they bled, but she wouldn't say. Richard was so devastated he could barely stand, finally suggesting a breakup, and then he left. Shirley collapsed, sobbing in my arms. When she came to, she kept crying. Anna, he doesn't believe me. Who set me up? Who's the jerk? I tuned out the curses. Shirley, it's not that he doesn't trust you. The emails went to both his dad and brother. Richard must have tried hard, but it was pointless. The photos and recording are real. You did cheat on him. You deserve the breakup. Shirley obviously caught on, froze for a moment, then burst into tears again. Who would do this? I can't find a better man than Richard, right? I grew up with him and never thought he'd care so much this time. He was just crying and everything. Shirley, you're still not talking. Shirley hesitated. If I said I was forced, would he believe me? I silently rolled my eyes but acted concerned. Really? Who's the scumbag that forced you? Shirley, you've got to tell me. They might have more on you, so spill the truth. If it's real, Richard will understand. Shirley went quiet, and I shared her silence. I could only hear her thoughts. Anna was right. Richard definitely found out everything, which is why he gave up on me. If I lie, it'll only make him mad. Was it really Tim? I lifted my eyelids a bit. It wasn't hard to see why she thought of Tim. In her limited understanding, she's completely unaware of how wealthy families operate. But soon Shirley dismissed this theory. Tim would never dig his own grave. The breakup hit her hard, and as her best friend, I had to console her. Remember how dramatic his pursuit was? It must have made someone envious. He must be feeling terrible, but his family cares about their reputation. Oh, Shirley, seeing you so upset, I despise myself for introducing you to Richard. Hearing that, Shirley's eyes brightened a little. Don't say that. I'm really grateful, honestly. Even though the ending wasn't pretty, I was really happy during our relationship. Of course. You almost got to see what it feels like to marry into a wealthy family. I didn't bother asking more about the man in the picture. Too many questions, and she'd get suspicious. A few days passed. Shirley started pulling herself together. She asked about how things were between me and Tim. Honestly, I'd been waiting for her to ask that. I've handed over almost all the work to him, but he's so busy now, there's no time left for me. We're planning to get engaged by the end of the year. Maybe have the wedding next year. I blushed, feeling shy as I spoke. And Shirley was stunned. After a while, she awkwardly said, "That soon?" "Well, congratulations to you both. Tim's already the general manager. Have you guys, you know?" I didn't expect her to ask that. "Not yet. He's really respectful of me." Shirley suddenly smiled brightly. "Yeah, he's always cherished you, Anna. You're still so innocent." "No way. Tim has to have someone else." "Anna, you're utterly naive." How could she guess that quickly? So Tim was drawn in by something more primal. I scoffed internally, losing even more respect for Tim. To reunite these estranged lovers, I threw a small anniversary party. Shirley agreed to come, and on the day, Tim showed up with Sally. I acted clueless, totally helping Tim flaunt his love with his little darling around. He couldn't do anything intimate. Sally was flaunting her wealth. A $10,000 bag, a $50,000 watch. And that striking ruby necklace around her neck. Shirley's eyes shot daggers at her. In under 3 months, the one Tim promised was replaced. Shirley got nothing tangible from Richard, just a fleeting taste of affection. How could she be content? Of course, secretly, she thought I was foolish too. I sipped my drink slowly, curious about her next move. What was I thinking? I can't even call Richard again. Instead, I confronted him online. But it wasn't until I was about to crash that he called me back. He explained that their uncle had them in the office for a chat tonight. When my call came in, he wanted to hang up but accidentally put it on speaker. So all 3 of them heard my embarrassing plea, "Can you just be a little more dependable?" I vented in frustration and Richard dramatically declared his innocence. "You threw me for a loop with that." I was like having an out-of-body experience. I was already dizzy from my own parents. "I know, but you really say whatever comes to mind." After a few muttered words, Richard turned serious. "Anna, I've always felt like I'm not very responsible. I'm scared of taking on serious commitments. Marriage is no big deal if you ask. I do anything, but my brother has a point. You're not just some carefree princess anymore. You need more than a playmate. You're the CEO of Songcork now, and I feel like I can't protect you." Was it just me, or did I detect a hint of sadness? My eyes stung, but I tried to keep my voice steady. I get it. You just keep being the spoiled brat. Enjoy your bliss. As long as you don't break the law, I've got your back still." Richard laughed heartily and then sighed softly. "Besides, I can never get past your parents." I couldn't hold back a laugh. "All right, enough. Let's pretend this conversation didn't happen tonight. He sure has a lot to think about." Luckily, work kept me busy and I soon forgot the whole awkward incident. I found out from Twitter that Richard was vacationing on some Southeast Asian island. His post showed a grid of photos filled with people some I recognized, all looking cheerful and carefree. I liked the post and put my phone away. He doesn't even ask me to tag along before going on trips anymore. Guess being at the top is a lonely business, having just taken over the company. There's a lot I need to learn and my schedule is packed, never-ending meetings. Piles of documents to review and obligatory social events. I may not like it, but in no time I've learned to charm them at the table. The new secretary, though young and fresh, couldn't quite hold her liquor despite her best effort. I downed a glass of strong liquor to close the deal. And finally wrapped up the dinner. "Are you okay?" "I'm sorry," she apologized with guilt. "I'm not a total lightweight, but it has been a while." Ignoring the queasiness in my stomach, I flashed her a reassuring smile. "No worries, don't overthink it. If I hadn't downed that drink, those clients wouldn't have budged." I told her to go on ahead with the driver. As I waited in the hotel lobby for my family's chauffeur shortly after I shut my eyes, I felt a hand touch my forehead. Startled, I opened my eyes. It was Calvin's composed face. "Calvin, do you have a fever? Why is there no one with you?" I touched my warm cheek and quickly shook my head. "No, I'm not sick, just had a drink." His brows knitted just a bit. How much? Just one shot, I replied. He called his assistant, and after a short wait, a cup of honey water was in front of me. I'm not fond of honey, but I couldn't refuse his good intentions. Yet before the cup reached my lips, Calvin gently caught my wrist. You don't like it? I paused and he asked softly, how about glucose water? I quickly nodded and Calvin smiled. I hardly ever saw him smile, but when he did it was splendid, making his eyes soften. He said, Anna, you don't have to settle. It brought tears to my eyes immediately. Calvin, usually so reserved, looked slightly flustered. What's wrong? He asked softly. His cautious tone made me feel cherished. And just like that, something snapped. Even though it was embarrassing, I couldn't help it. I miss my brother, I sobbed out. Calvin was taken aback for a moment, complex emotions flashing in his eyes, but his hand gently landed on my head. It was a protective gesture. After a moment, I finally heard his deep sigh. Anna, when you see me, do you think of your brother? Are you hinting at something? I gasped, tears welling up in my eyes. Just hanging there. He raised his hand, gently wiping away the tear with his slightly rough thumb. I was so stunned my breathing softened. But with my head still clouded from crying, I barely understood. After finishing a glass of glucose water, the driver still hadn't arrived and Calvin offered to take me home, seeing his assistant looking like they wanted to say something. I curiously asked Calvin, do you have something else going on? He looked down with a soft smile and said no. In the car my emotions had settled back to normal, which made me feel more embarrassed. Is the work pressure getting to you? Calvin got straight to the point. I nodded in agreement a bit. I wish my brother were still here. I admit I'm not that brave sometimes. But my parents say I'm not any less than my brother. They believe in me, so I've got to do well. So it's not just because I'm similar in age to your brother that you think of him. His mood seemed to lift. I slowly rolled down the car window, letting the night breeze cool my face. We started texting each other more frequently. I asked him a lot about work and learned so much. Sometimes I jokingly call him teacher and he'd reply with a flat "don't want to be a teacher." I'd stare at the text lost in thought, but work kept us busy and we didn't see each other again for over a month. In the evening I attended a father's friend's birthday banquet. At these events you'd run into a lot of familiar faces. I couldn't help but scan the crowd for Calvin. I hadn't asked him during the day, so I wasn't sure if he'd show up, but right as the event was about to start he showed up. And he saw me too, standing there feeling a bit nervous as he walked toward me. My heart started racing for no apparent reason, then suddenly someone stepped in between us, breaking my gaze. Anna, can I have this dance? I lost track of how many dance invites I'd gotten, and I almost rejected again when a hand appeared on the guy's shoulder. Calvin smiled brightly, his voice cool. She already promised me. The guy looked puzzled, glancing at me under a heat-inducing gaze. I could only nod in agreement. I thought Calvin was just helping me out, but he actually wanted to dance, and he wasn't very good at it. He kept stepping wrong and seemed afraid of tripping me, so he held me tightly. My mind went blank in his embrace when he looked down at me. There was an intense depth in his eyes that made my ears burn. The space between us was so close. A gentle nudge could spark a kiss. In the end, I couldn't take it anymore. How was he both bad at dancing and brave enough to try? You really need to practice more. A low laugh sounded above my head. Calvin, in his pleasant voice, asked Anna, how about changing one thing? Change what? I don't want to be your teacher, I want to be your boyfriend. As the song ended, it felt like fireworks were going off in my ears. I thought of the row of little things he sent me on my office desk. During breaks I couldn't help but pick them up, look at them, then neatly arrange them again. I also remembered the proposal drafts he'd written for me stored in my phone. Without realizing it, I had become very reliant on him. I nodded and a visible lightness washed over Calvin. Then he took my hand and led me outside, where to his voice was light and breezy to a Calvin's epilogue. Sam's my good friend, but he's also my rival. We're always competing with each other. If I grow an inch taller this month, he catches up next month. If I come first this time, then it's his turn the next. Finally, my mom was going to have a second child.